Kind of a weak open, almost 4-1 declining to advancing stocks. And of course, we got issues around earnings coming up, trade, and of course, monetary policy in the headline. None of that's been resolved yet. And that's why we're kind of in the middle here, just sort of floating around. It's our third down day, but semis have been in a downtrend for the last several days. Banks have also been in a modest downtrend. Consumer discretionary, historic high there yesterday. But remember, Amazon's 23% of that sector, so just bear that in mind. Consumer staples, another historic high just in the last couple of days. That's really been the outstanding group, the biggest number of movers near historic highs there. Transports have been an issue. We talked on Fast Money last night about what's been going on with them, and essentially they're still 10% below their historic highs. Take a look at the transports. That was way back in September. We hit historic highs on the Dow Jones Transportation Index, and there you go here. You see that 10% below those numbers here, and here's where we are right now, essentially 11% below those historic numbers. And this is a very bifurcated group of people. Remember, there's essentially airlines, and you've got railroads and the shipping and logistics company. And the problem in the transports is basically the shipping and logistics companies. They've all fallen apart on concerns about global trade and, of course, about the global slowdown. And they're all related. Of course, the slowdown is somewhat related to global trade issues. But look, FedEx, 37% down since September, 28% for J.B. Hunt, UPS 15%, Robinson 15%. FedEx has some particular issues related to it in general, but you can see the trend here. Some of the airlines have also been affected by Boeing in general, but you get the idea. So shipping and logistics companies affected by worldwide trade and the global slowdown is really what's weighing the transports down, and that's not going to change too much until we resolve some of the trade issues that are out there. Big story today, of course, was Social Capital, one of our favorite SPACs, essentially merging with Virgin Galactic. They're going to take a major position in that. Social Capital, remember, went public almost about 2 years ago, September of 2017 at $10. And here's the big spike. A lot of these SPACs essentially do nothing until they actually announce a particular purchase. And here you see that's a new high for that. SPACs are a little bit hard to understand. They're relatively new concepts, but it's a special purpose acquisition company. These are essentially blank check companies, and the goal is to merge or acquire companies. You essentially have experts in the field doing it, say a guy who used to run an oil company saying, I'm going to buy something in the oil business, or you have entrepreneurs, deal makers who go out and say, we're going to buy companies for very specific purposes. And that's what we're seeing. This has been a record year for SPACs, by the way. We've had 28 of them announced so far in 2019. That is going to be on track for a record. There were 46 back in 2018. So look, right now we're on track for a record number of these. And I said you get different kinds of people in this. Sometimes you get experts who are in particular areas who are going to buy companies of their expertise. And other times you get deal makers. We got one Friday with just essentially a deal maker. This is Pivotal Investment Corp. This is Jonathan Ledecky. And Jonathan Ledecky is a pretty well-known person out there in the overall business. He's a co-owner of the New York Islanders. And he's a deal maker. It's going to go public. We don't know what he's going to buy. You never know what they're going to buy. But they're looking for something that's in some disruptive technology area where they can go in and buy into some various companies. So 20 million shares at $10, and that's a standard price. Used to be $6. All of these SPACs now price at $10. And again, until you announce the actual acquisition, and you usually have 2 years to do that, these tend to do basically nothing. So what is really going on with these SPACs is the person is going to the investors and say, I am a well-known investor, or I am a well-known individual in a certain area, the oil business, for example. I have a past record. Trust me, we're going to buy something. And of course, that's exactly what happened with Chamath and what his particular investment today. So the bottom line here is you're going to see more of these SPACs in the future. Guys, back to you.
You know, Bob, glad you did that with SPACs, because they have been coming at quite a pace lately. As you noted here. And I think in the case of Mr. Palpatia, there had been an expectation he'd probably go out there and buy a unicorn in the technology business, given his expertise and things like social media. So a bit of a surprise here. But this is not a cash-flowing asset anytime soon either.
Frankly, it's a little bit of a risk for the particular investors. Now, remember, they have ways, the investors themselves have ways to get out of this. This is not where...
You can vote against the deal if you want to and dissolve the whole thing.
You can, and you can get out, too. You don't necessarily have to buy in. Otherwise, nobody would ever buy into these deals. So what will be interesting to see is how many people will go along with him on that. But I agree, it's visionary. But if you're an investor looking for returns, it's a bit of a long shot, David.